you see the title above, and it's pretty much self-explanatory, and you'll see the link down below as well. But again, they're very self-explanatory. Basically, somebody over at the Saturday Morning Sonic forums asked a question about the whole revival of a possible SatAM revival, Sonic SatAM, if you will, revival, sometime down the line. And again, and you got to agree with what a lot of people say. You can't, you can't rule out the possibility for a revival of this series. I mean, you can't rule that out whatsoever. You know what I mean? Because basically, if you rule out a possible revival, you're ruling out any other possibilities for revivals. It doesn't matter what franchise. You know, I know that didn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying. But anyway, they wanted to know about the revival. You know, they talked about the revival. They wanted to know what Ben Hurst's ideas were, you know, and how he planned to do it, and things like that. You know, again, I'll provide a link to the topic and everything, and even to what was linked to this person. But basically, from what I've read from the links that were provided to this topic, which you can find at Fans United for SatAM and at Saturday Morning Sonic, I believe, is basically Ben Hurst giving an idea to a lot of fans of what would have been the third season and what possibly could have been the movie. That's right, it says, the title says it up there, it says SatAM's third season / movie, what could have been, if I could fit it in there. Or what would have been SatAM's third season / movie. And, you know, you could definitely tell that both the movie and the third season are very similar in tone and texture, and, you know, script-wise and planning-wise, it's all the same. But I think you could also tell what would have been in the movie only, and maybe shown a bit in the series, in the third season, if that third season happened. The movie basically has a few more darker elements in there. For example, Nicole. Nicole would have been one of the central pieces of the movie, and probably a bit of the third season, but more so the movie. And, you know, just as she's sort of like a central piece in a sense of the comics right now, she would have been the same way in the movie, and at times more so in the third season. And you kind of got that hint towards the end of the second season of what her involvement would have been in the third season, if not in the movie. Now, the reason she would have been more, from what I take from this, from what I read just a little bit ago by clicking on the link, because I've read it before but not fully in detail. Basically, the reason Nicole would have been more of a central piece of the movie had Ben Hurst, God rest his soul, been able to make the movie happen, if you know what I mean, made that movie a reality. Her central piece, her story arc of the movie, basically would have shown why it was only meant for the movie, because it would have had some dark elements. And if you read exactly what I'm talking about, when you click on the links, you'll know you'll see what I mean. But it definitely would have been a lot of darker elements in there. And the story arc for her, the central piece for her, would have been very complex. It definitely would have given you a background and origin story that you wouldn't have seen coming. I mean, let's just put it this way. The origin story and everything they give her in the comics, I hate to say this, I love the comics origin of her and everything, and how they've let her be what she is now. But her origin in what would have been the movie, if not bits and pieces of the third season, would have made the origin in the comic pale in comparison. In other words, the origin in the comic would have nothing on what Ben Hurst had planned for the movie and bits and pieces, I believe, of the third season. Now, again, and that's, believe it or not, where a lot of the darker elements come in for what would have definitely been a more appropriation for like a PG movie, in my opinion. Now, now again, both the third season and the movie also had very similar, if not the same, elements. I mean, we do find out, or kind of get a hint, because it's to be determined, of who the rival in the third season slash possible would have been third season slash movie, what it came from, where that new rival to Sonic for Sally's affections and romance, what it came from. It would have came from a guy in a group known as the Freedom Builders. Not just freedom fighters now, the now Freedom Builders. And basically this to-be-determined character, or would have been to-be-determined character, basically makes a suggestion of how things could go, kind of switch things around, make things go more smoothly, if you will, from what I'm taking from this. And that would have started sort of the slow, that slow kind of rivalry, that slow kind of transition, and that three-way, if you know what I mean. Because Sally would basically, later on, I guess, or a little afterwards, kind of get some praise going for this unknown, for coming up with this idea. So, again, that's basically where the romantic triple threat three-way rival that Ben Hurst was talking about in the extras here, and talked about throughout the years with the fans, would have, came from that situation. So definitely you could see that's with a similarity to both what would have been the movie and what would have been the third season come into play. One of the other interesting aspects is we kind of got like an idea of the relationship between Nicole and Sonic. Basically, we kind of got that idea a little bit in the second season, but it would develop more so in the third season, if not in the movie. And that's another similar aspect. In other words, Nicole would have opened up more about who she is and what she's about, where she came from and everything, to Sonic. She would confine this in him. She would confine all this into, she would confine who she is, where she came from, what her origin is, what her background is, to Sonic. But again, we would find out a little bit more about her as well. We would find out more about her with that background as well. But she would confine a lot of that into Sonic later on. We would also find that, and also the way Ben described Sonic was, even though Sonic, is at peace now, kind of at peace, it's just, he's accomplished his goal and blah, 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 and all that. He's still Sonic basically is still like a big, overgrown, lovable kid, that, seeks attention. And basically, that's, as he puts it, from what I could take from it, would have been for the third season, if not the movie. Basically, someone that's like, yeah, I've accomplished my goal, but now, what do? I need action. I need to move about. I can't, just be doing the same, I can't be with everybody else just doing the same thing day after day. Planning this, reviewing said plan, this, that. I need to do more. Which again, I think, now in my opinion, just by reading off of that, kind of shows that Ben's throwing a bit of a homage, bit of a subtle hint to the Sega version of Sonic, because that's how the Sega version of Sonic is. And you can see that in the comics as well. But basically, I like how, he's kind of throwing that hint towards Sega, kind of saying, hey, here you go, here's the Sonic you want, but we're still keeping the bit of the Sonic we know. Because he does say Sonic does grow a little bit in the season, if not in the movie. Or what would have been, basically. So it's really interesting. And I like how he portrays Snively here. Now, the third season, obviously, as we all know, he says Snively kind of, ascends to the top, but later on down the line defects to the freedom fighters because Nagas takes over, Robotnik becomes his lackey, and so on and so forth. So I can see a similarity, but if not a bit of a difference. And the difference with the movie, from what I can tell, is Snively is a lot more conniving. He's a lot more more thorough in his plans. He thinks them out. He's more of like, okay, I got to figure out. He's basically like a master. Basically, from what I could tell, and if I'm wrong, let me know when you read the link. When you click on the link and read the article. Basically, Snively comes out to realize that, hey, I may have been smarter. I know I was smaller. I know I was more thorough, more of a planner, and all that. But in a way, he starts realizing he's a master. He's a bit of a master, like bit of a chess master. It's like he knows what pawns, what king, when he has to move his king or his queen or his jack or his knight. Or his knight, basically, to do a checkmate. He basically knows when he can checkmate his opponent. He starts to realize that. And from my interpretation, from what I read, that's what he starts to realize. And that's good, because you need a villain that, even though they'll be defeated, they always have to show and be recognized by the heroes as a threat, as a real threat, as someone that could checkmate you like that. But overall, from what I read, and again, any of you that will be reading this for the first time will be very intrigued by what not Ian Flynn, but Ben Hurst. By Ben Hurst. And if I said Ian Flynn throughout this, I apologize, but what Ben Hurst was planning for the third season, if not the movie. I mean, we all know about the whole Tails, situation. I mean, Ben says he would have been more active, and would have came into some great power that he would use to rescue the freedom fighters. So that's really good as well. Now, beyond the third season in the movie, we technically don't know what would have been. Now, I mentioned this before. I said that, Ben Hurst and Ken Penders tried to collab together. Then Ken wanted to go his separate ways, do his own thing. But we don't know what would have happened. And I always feel myself, because I read this somewhere. I can't remember where the link is. I wish to God I did. But I swear this, I'm being honest with you, I'm looking you straight right now, all of you. There was, originally I understand there was going to be a fourth and fifth season. Originally planned. It was developed, not planned out, just being developed for after the third season. And some of the ideas that obviously got tossed around were Knuckles coming in at the third season, being more full-fledged active in the fourth. I think Amy would have shown up. Metal Sonic, I think, was going to show up or something like that. I don't know. These were ideas that were, I think, being tossed around for potential for the future seasons had the third season got off the ground. So, and if the movie would have gotten off the ground, what future sequels? So, but again, that's basically my interpretation from what I have read. I'll provide the links down below. It's very intriguing. It's very interesting to see exactly how Ben Hurst had things planned out and thought out for what would have been the third season, if not the movie itself. And you can, again, like I said, you can see the similarities, the same kind of ideas, if not different, because of if not the different interpretations of the different aspects, because of one being what would have been a planned movie, and the other being a planned out third season. So that's all I'm going to say on it. I'll provide the links down below so you guys can read up on what would have been the third season, if not the movie, for this. Comment down below, tell me what you guys think. Video responses are greatly appreciated, and I'll talk to y'all later.